We hold so much wisdom in the body. And one of the pieces that I carry with me that I experienced in the Philippines, where my mother is from, where my mother line is from, that bloodline, was 100% transmuted through the body, meaning eating the foods from that place, feeling the earth under my feet in that place, meeting just whole tribes of people to whom I was related. Like certain towns were just like, yeah, everyone's my cousin. And this, the whole point of this is that one of the things that I've noticed, right, is that when people talk about, visiting their ancestral lands, sometimes there's this idea of like, was I ready? Maybe I wasn't like super conscious. And I happen to be in a point on my journey where I was fairly conscious, but I know that there are things that are like, woo, like that I'm still growing into big time. There's plenty more down the path, plenty more space down that path. And I just wanted to reassure you. So like one of the things that came through so clearly was, you don't need to know, like, it doesn't have to be, I am aware that I am uploading codes and downloading information and, healing my bloodline, because it's happening in the alchemy of your body simply by being there, having that soul's call to go to a place. And sometimes it's from your ancestral in terms of like your DNA, and sometimes it's past life calling. And just trust that, and trust that the moment that you're called to go is the moment that you're 100% ready for that stage of exchange. So a great example is it would be years before I remembered my lifetimes in the south of France, where I was, this is where Divine Mother was revered for millennia. There were just generations of priestesses and sisters there, and that didn't come in really deeply and strongly until just a few years ago for me. And I was called there when I was 15 years old and ended up in like Lourdes of all places, right? And not being raised Catholic, not being, having no tie to the mother consciously, but completely was called there. Started speaking the language like I was born there. I came back with this really strong Southern French accent, which if you've spent any time there, if you're familiar with the language, you know that it's different from Parisian. Okay, let's just put it that way. There's like there's lots of like more drawn out sounds, and not spoken quite as fast. But what I can tell you is, even though, oh my God, there were so many things that yet needed to be healed, obviously, at that age. There was so much that I was not conscious of. But what I know now is that seeds were planted, codes were uploaded, codes were downloaded, in spite of my conscious self. Okay. So I just wanted to put that out there because it's something that I've been hearing, especially these beautiful folks that maybe are in their like 30s, I'm in my 40s, late 40s, and just trust your path, trust that, when you're called to go to Glastonbury, even though maybe it wasn't under the circumstances that you would have wished. Like me as a 15-year-old girl, I was painfully shy. I remember arriving with my French family and not even wanting to come out of my room that first night. I was so scared that I literally made a sign like bonne nuit, and I put it on my door and I closed it. And, they had like this whole dinner prepared for me and everything. And I feel in hindsight, I'm like, oh God, the social awkwardness. But that's where I was at that time. And it was exactly where I needed to be in that moment, And there were so many pieces of my power that I had not yet stepped into, right? Because that's part of the journey. And it was perfect, right? And having made that journey prepared me for later journeys, prepared me for later downloads, so that when I did get that the tears gushing down the cheeks, like full on remembering of like being in the caves, like doing the cave paintings, like being part of this sisterhood, when that all came in, like, whoa, I was ready for it. Do you know what I mean? So trust where your body takes you. Okay? Your body holds so much wisdom. Trust your path. Even if it feels like, oh, but I just ended up arguing with my daughter, or I just ended up, trust it. What I can tell you, I'll share more stories from my trip. But what I can tell you is that there are no accidents. That maybe that difference of opinion you might have had, let's say with your daughter or with a neighbor, with have you, was like processing echoes of ancestral healing or past life healing, or bringing knowledge forward, bringing wisdom forward. Like when I talk about healing, it's not just it's not from the perspective of like, oh, there's something to be fixed. No, it's not that at all. What it is that we leave this trail, these like seeds of wisdom, these fragments, these fractals. And as we move down this spiral path, as we progress, right, we integrate, we recall, we remember, we incorporate, literally, right, as in the body, right, incorporate these pieces of our soul, these pieces of ourselves that we left behind, like a jeweled treasure map, right, of if there is something that needs to be healed, it is simply a part of your soul that's ready to rejoin with you. That's it. It doesn't mean that you're broken. It doesn't mean that there's something to be fixed. Not at all. It's like ever more whole, right? Ever more aligned, ever more on your purpose, in your purpose, right? Ever more in your body, right? Which is where so much of this wisdom is carried. And just trust it. Just 100% trust it, and so I just wanted to put that out there, because I remember reading stories of like people talking about, oh, I had to go to this place and like open a portal and then and I'd be like, wow, that's amazing. Wow, I wonder what it's like to be that kind of a person. And like, now I am that person. Right? I remember the first time I heard someone say like, oh yeah, I was, like my guide said this, or my guides are telling me this. And I was like, wow, what is that like? Guides. And now my guides laugh at me on a daily basis. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, this is like, has become a part of my path and experience. So just trust, because like as you reincorporate that part, what you'll find is you'll go back and you'll go, oh, that's why of all the towns in France that I was called to that one. Of all the programs that I was in the one that went to the south of France, right? Of all the, you know what I mean? Like of all the moments here was the moment in my development. Almost always it's tied to, you may be going like, oh my gosh, I was called there when I was 21. I was so like not ready to do the work. And yet you were probably called there at age 21 because something momentous happened to an ancestor in a past life, what have you, that needed to be tied, connected with that moment, right? It's like there's never any accident. Like, oh my goodness, it's so juicy as we unpack, as we go through this journey, the seeds of which we plant before we come into the body, where we're like, all right, this is what I want to do. These are the things I'm gonna like, this is how I want to contribute. This is my purpose. This is what I want to learn this time around. You know what I mean? And of course we come in, we forget all of that. And we, piece by piece, remember, right? So that's all it really is just remembering who you are. So trust that there is always a part of you that knows who you are. And guess what? That part resides in your beautiful, sacred body. And as you learn to trust that instrument of your soul, that physical focus of your soul, that temple of your soul, as you learn to trust your body, it just makes things so much easier and the journey that much more rich. So happy travels. From my heart to yours, I love you. Take what you need and pass it on.